Hello and welcome to Under the First Floor Lo-Fi Podcast, shitty recordings of bands you should like. My name's David Settle, and on today's episode we have Strawberry Runners from Philadelphia. This is the project of lead singer Emmy Knight, who writes songs reminiscent to me of early Rilo Kiley, even some Weaker Thins, without the pop-punk part of it. They have a record out on Salinas Records called In the Garden, in the Night, but on today's episode, they played a lot of new songs, and they were all fantastic, so I'm very excited to hear what they have coming up in the future. Before we get into the music, I'd like to remind you that I have started a Patreon for this podcast to help me with repairs for different equipment that's used. You can find that at patreon.com/underthefirstfloor. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and here is Strawberry Runner's first song called Allison.
One, two, three, four. You're a typhoon, you're a sandstorm, your heat could keep the Great Lakes warm. Allison. You're a landslide on the old farm. You're an avalanche in the river gorge, Allison. But you sing so sweet, singing on the front porch, shaded from the heat in your summer short shorts. Oh, 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 and I miss you. I hope you're alright. I remember staying up all night last June. And when I get back to the Midwest, to the bluegrass and the saxophone strings, will you sing so sweet, singing on your front porch, shaded from the heat in your summer short shorts. Allison, if it ain't trouble, then it ain't fun. Let's open up the old eyes and kick up some dust on Middle Run. You said I gotta get out of Madison. Well,
Strawberry Runners was a project I started in Denver. It was sort of the continuation of a project I started in Bloomington, and the Denver portion started in 2013, and then it's kind of moved with me everywhere I've moved, and now it's here, and yeah, it's just like a project for my songwriting.
What was it called in Bloomington?
Somersault.
Cool.
But there was another band that started going by Somersault, and they got famous like kind of quick.
They trademark it.
And I liked Strawberry Runners better
That's
anyway,
really- yeah.
so.
are you all that you
introduce the people who played with you
Yeah.
tonight?
So today, who played with me is Madeline Rafter on drums, Santi Slade on bass, and Andy Jones on guitar.
Cool. Are they in other bands?
They are. Madeline has a project called Snake Boy Gang. Santi has played with his project Santi Suede and also with Spring Onion. And Andy plays in their project There, and also everyone kind of plays in a lot of other bands too,
Yeah.
but those are like the main projects.
Cool. For the newer stuff you're writing, are there any like newer influences you've been like incorporating, or like bands you've been focusing on, or new music you've been focusing on?
Musical influences? No. I
No,
listen to a lot of new music, but I don't consciously like try to write something that's like this or like that. I think that it all gets processed somehow, and like it does all probably come through in my writing.
Mhm.
I'm really not conscious of it, and it's maybe lazy. I just don't want to be conscious of it. I just want to be like, I don't know. I do know, like, yeah, even since moving in with Madeline, my roommate who's playing drums on these songs, my songwriting has changed a little bit from like hearing her songs and like hearing her play through the walls. It's constantly changing, but I don't exactly know how.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's strange to wake up to find the one I knew. All rearranged, such a marvel what the light can do. Oh, sister, I have no place to turn. Call mother, I have so much to learn. All I ever could have offered never would have made you follow. Yet I wonder, yet I bother, building where the ground was hollow. Leave me my home all through the winter. Leave books on the table. Let me alone. Quiet nights, time to find peace if I'm able. All I ever could have offered never would have made you follow. Yet I wonder, yet I bother, building where the ground was hollow. All I ever could have offered never would have made you follow. Yet I wonder, yet I bother, building where the ground was
So the songs you played today, were those mostly from the last record you put out, or all? Or
No, none
Okay.
of those are from the last record. Those are all from the upcoming record.
oh, they're all new.
Yeah,
Whoa. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and well, one of them though is actually one of the first songs that I played with Strawberry Runners that
Oh, wow.
got
Okay.
revamped a little bit.
Which song was that?
Allison, the first
Cool.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like one of the first songs I played with the first rendition of Strawberry Runners in 2013. And I never recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, we recorded it, but we didn't ever put it out with like the finished version of it.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of been part of our repertoire, but never on any records.
Are you working on a new record? Obviously, if you have that many new songs, but
yeah, and we've got a lot more. But so we are working on a new record, and hoping to get it all laid down in the next like month or so.
I guess I'm most familiar with the like last record that came out, the EP-ish thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
In the Garden in the Night.
That one, yes.
Mm-hmm.
With those older songs, do you just not really play them anymore because you're playing with like you're playing with like newer people now, right?
Yeah, it's a different group of people. All the people in that group, we played together in Denver, and then we all moved to different places. Okay. And so we did like one little tour last spring together, and then the fall before we did a little tour. But yeah, we haven't played together since then. So now it's like all new songs, all new people. Yeah.
Of the songs you played today, is there one you're specifically like pretty proud of, or a moment you're really proud of?
I love them all. Like, that's why I played them all. I like the last one a lot, Slip Through, just because it feels a little darker and heavier than a lot of my previous songs. Like, I'm simultaneously getting like heavier and also like sparser with my songwriting. So I'm like going in two directions, but I think that I'm better expressing what my songwriting is really for me. Like, it's for like those quiet moments, and it's also to just like express something in a really visceral way.
Inside your room, you do.
Did you grow up in the South?
I was born in Kentucky, but I grew up in Indiana.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of your lyrics seem to be very Southern leaning.
Yeah, a lot of my family's from the South.
Okay. So did you mostly grow up in like small towns, like outside of where you live now?
Yeah,
Philadelphia?
yeah. I grew up in 2 small towns. The first one was very, very tiny. And then I moved to the second one when I was like 5. And that's where I spent most of my growing up years in Madison, Indiana.
How long have you been living in Philadelphia?
I moved here in November 2017.
17.
So
okay.
like a year and some change.
Okay. What do you think, like living in such a big city, coming from like smaller towns like that?
Well, I'm not coming directly from smaller
Okay.
towns, so I've become a little more acclimated to bigger cities.
Mhm.
I moved after Madison. I moved to a slightly larger town, like smaller city, Bloomington.
Yeah.
I'd call it a town.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Denver, Colorado, which is like a city.
That's, yeah.
And then I moved to New York / Connecticut, but like I worked in New York and was there a lot. So I like.
So this is kind of downsizing from that.
It's actually downsizing a little bit.
Cool. Has like living in cities affected your songwriting, you think?
Probably. I was like writing a lot more in Denver than I did in Bloomington, but it was really just like a choice of like how I wanted to spend my time. I don't think it's really affected my songs too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm probably more nostalgic for the country and where I come from because I've been so many places outside of there for like 10 years or something.
John, when I think about you, I wanna go back to that place we shared. Just sitting all summer in the window by the fountain in the heat that we could hardly bear. Is that for you? I can't say. Was it you or I who walked away? Now I watch you stumble in, turn over on the carpet, tell the same story again, and your eyes roll back as you laugh in a sweat, and I'm looking for you, but I can't see through all that. Oh, audio, baby, I just want you back.
Do you have any like touring plans or anything? Or are you just focusing on the record, really?
Focusing on the record right now, and we'll tour once it's released.
Yeah. Do you enjoy touring a lot? Or?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love being on the road. And I really like booking tours, and I really love driving. The only thing I don't love about it is like sleeping on uncomfortable surfaces. Like that's the only thing.
Yeah. What's your like favorite kind of show to play?
I really like shows that are like house shows or like community center shows where everyone just like talks to you afterward and like wants to know about what you're up to. And then also they have like, I don't know, I just find like talking to the people in those situations, you learn a lot more about who you're playing for and who like the community of the place you're going. And that just, it makes me feel connected in a way that sometimes music, even though music shouldn't feel disconnected, sometimes it does because there's like a stage and then there's a crowd and you're separate and then you go backstage and then like in that kind of situation, like you just don't really, I don't know, like you don't get to see the people for who they are. You know? You just kind of like,
Just
you're
sing as
doing
a
your thing and
crowd.
they're there to watch you.
Yeah.
And it feels unbalanced. But I like how, like, at a house show, it's like, okay, you played your show, but also we're just going to hang out and
Yeah.
like, or at a community center or something. So my first tour, I went through New Paltz. I loved that. New Paltz, New York, in the Hudson Valley. And I remember just like falling in love with touring because of that town.
Oh, cool.
And Philly was actually on that first tour, and it like made me realize I really wanted to live in a collective house.
What was the New Paltz one? You played a show there?
Mm-hmm.
What was that show like?
So it was a basement show. It was maybe my first like real tour show.
Mm-hmm.
I was 17, and I didn't know this person at the time, but we became friends years later and realized like, oh, you booked that show for me. But his name's Eric Ayotte, and he runs this film festival called the Gadabout Film Festival.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, and so he booked the show, and it was with Red Sled Choir, and my friend Daniel played, and I played with my friend Jill. And I just remember like the basement being really nicely decorated, and everyone sitting quietly and listening, and I didn't know anyone. You know how it is on tour. But you know, it's just for a 17-year-old who like I've only played for my friends mostly, or my mom's friends. It was just kind of like, why are these people listening to me? But I was so grateful. Yeah. And then like Eric made us breakfast, and it was in the morning, and it was just like, what is this like dream life that some people get to live and nobody tells you about in school? It's a secret, you know, that I felt like I tapped into this other world, this secret world.
Thanks so much to Strawberry Runners for coming to the basement. You can find them online on Facebook and Instagram if you search their name. And though they didn't play any songs off of it, I highly recommend checking out their record, In the Garden, in the Night. You can find that on their Bandcamp. It's a great record. And if they ever happen to come to your town, definitely check them out. They're very good live. If you'd like to get in touch with me about the podcast, you can email me at underthefirstfloor@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at UTFF Podcast and Instagram at underthefirstfloor. For the end of the podcast, I'm going to leave you with a couple of songs. The first being from Dear Nora. It's a song called Simulation Feels off of 2018 Skulls Example, which came out on Ordinal Records. It's the project of Katie Davidson from Portland, Oregon, who's been recording as Dear Nora since the year 2000, putting out a lot of great records, but last year's was just amazing, and the song is such a catchy, really good, sparse pop song. After that, we'll have a song from Vainico Doble, a song called Caramelo de Limon. This is a duo from Spain who's been putting out records since the 70s. This is from their self-titled debut release, which came out in 1971. And that's really all the information I can find on them. But this song is really cool, and I enjoy it a lot. I haven't really delved into the rest of their discography, but the first record is amazing, and you should definitely check that out on Spotify or wherever. I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Simulation feels real every day. I look into windows, see the beautiful world from an airplane. This summer is man-made, but I breathe it in anyway. I jump in the river. Last night I watched a movie about the Oregon Trail. Simulation feels real. See the ranch, home where the ranch was. Drop a pin on it. about the Oregon Trail. Caramelo de limón, el sol de mi país. Caramelo de limón, el sol de mi país. Caramelo de limón, el sol de mi país. Sol de mi país, cielo blanquecino y gris, palomita de anís, mermelada de ciruela, el mar que en sueños vi, que al romper las olas se convierte en chantilly. Caramelo de limón, el sol de mi país. Caramelo de limón, el sol de mi país. Caramelo de limón, el sol de mi país. Sol de mi país, viento norte, viento triste, un arcoíris sin fin. Bosques de castaños, los que siempre yo soy